The smell of garlic bread and something sweet, a peach cobbler, I think, was already drifting through the house when I heard my husband's car pull into the driveway. I was standing at the kitchen counter, untying my apron, half listening to my mother arrange the centerpiece in the dining room for the 4th time. She does that when she's nervous, moves things around that don't need moving. "Laura's going to love this," she called out. "She hasn't been home in almost 2 years." I didn't answer right away. I was watching through the window as my husband stepped out of the car, still in his work clothes. Gray slacks, his sleeves rolled to the elbows. He had that look on his face, the one I've learned to recognize after 6 years of marriage. Not tired, not distracted, something else. Focused. He came through the back door, kissed me on the cheek, and set his laptop bag on the chair by the door the way he always does. "Your sister land okay?" he asked. "Mom got a text an hour ago. She should be here by 6. He nodded, opened the fridge, stood there a moment longer than necessary. "David," I said. He turned around. "You're doing the thing." "What thing?" "The quiet thing." "The quiet thing?" The quiet thing." He smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm just tired, Sarah. Long day." I let it go. I shouldn't have, but I did. My sister Laura is 3 years younger than me. She's 31, I'm 34. She's the one who left our small town in Ohio at 18 with a single suitcase and a full scholarship. The one who called home every Sunday for the first 2 years and then every other Sunday and then once a month. And then mostly on holidays. My parents never said anything about it. They were proud. Laura was the one who made it. She graduated from a good school, got a master's degree, moved to Chicago, and built a career in finance that none of us fully understood, but all of us admired. She sent my parents a new television one Christmas and paid for my mother's dental work the following spring without being asked. She was generous in the way people are when they've gotten somewhere and want to bring everyone with them. My husband David worked for 12 years as a forensic financial analyst for the FBI before he left to consult privately. He doesn't talk about what he did there, not in detail. What he does say, occasionally when something in the news reminds him of a case, is that the most sophisticated financial crimes are almost never committed by strangers. They're committed by people with access, people who are trusted, people who smile at dinners and send flowers on birthdays. I don't think I fully understood what he meant until the night my sister came home. Laura arrived at 6:15, which is late by our family standard but not worth commenting on. She came through the front door with a rolling suitcase and a bottle of wine, and that particular version of her smile. Wide, practiced, the kind that takes over a room. My mother cried a little. My father held her for a long time. I hugged her and she smelled like expensive perfume and airplane recycled air, and she pulled back and held my face in both hands and said, "You look so good, Sarah. Seriously." Dinner was loud in the best way. My mother had made pot roast and the peach cobbler I'd smelled earlier, and my father opened a second bottle of wine before we even finished the salad. Laura told stories about Chicago, about her firm, about a client dinner at a restaurant where a celebrity had been seated 2 tables over. She was funny and warm and present in a way she sometimes isn't. I remember thinking she seemed lighter than usual, relieved almost. David was quiet. He's often quiet in social situations, which my family has learned to accept. He asks good questions when he speaks, and he listens in a way that makes people feel heard. But that night I noticed he was watching Laura. Not obviously, just the way he watches things. A careful, unhurried attention. After dinner, my parents settled in the living room. Laura offered to help me clean up. We stood at the sink together, the way we used to when we were teenagers taking turns on dish duty, and for a moment it felt like nothing had changed. "You seem happy," I told her. She handed me a pot to dry. "I am. Things are good at the firm." A brief pause. Just half a second. "Really good. Really, really good." David appeared in the kitchen doorway. "I'm going to head out to the car for a minute," he said. "Left something I need." I nodded. He looked at me a moment longer than the sentence required, and then he was gone. He came back 20 minutes later. By then Laura and I had moved to the back porch. When he found me alone for a moment, refilling glasses in the kitchen, he leaned close and said it so quietly I almost asked him to repeat it. "Look up Meridian Capital Group," he said. Tonight. Then he walked back to the living room. I didn't sleep that night. David, to his credit, didn't push. He told me what he could, which wasn't everything, and he said it was possible he was wrong, and he said that if I wanted to leave it alone he would understand, but he also said he would not have mentioned it if he didn't think I needed to know. What exactly did you find? I asked. We were in bed, the house quiet, Laura asleep in the guest room down the hall. I was looking at something else, he said, a different case, and a name came up that I recognized. Cross-referenced it. Took me about 40 minutes to confirm. Confirm what? He was quiet for a moment. Meridian Capital Group is under investigation. Has been for about 8 months. The allegation is that a senior analyst has been routing client funds through a series of shell accounts, small amounts at first, then larger. I stared at the ceiling. Laura is a senior analyst, I said. Yes, you think she's involved. I think her name appears in documents I'm not supposed to have seen, and I think you should talk to her before anyone else does. I turned toward him in the dark. How long have you known? I put it together this afternoon, after I ran a standard search. I didn't know it was her firm until I saw the filing. Why didn't you tell me at dinner? He was quiet again. When David is quiet in that particular way, it means he's choosing his words carefully, not avoiding them. Because I wanted you to have one good dinner with your family, he said, before everything changed. I have a photograph on my phone from that night. My mother took it before dessert, Laura and me on either side of my father, all three of us laughing at something he said. My father is 67, my mother is 65. They have a retirement account, a paid-off mortgage, and a savings that my parents built over 40 years of careful, patient work. My mother was a school librarian. My father ran a small hardware store until his knees gave out and he sold it. They are not wealthy people, but they are secure. Or they were. Laura had power of attorney over a portion of their investments. They had given it to her 2 years ago when my mother had a health scare and they wanted someone they trusted to be able to act quickly if something happened. They trusted Laura completely. So did I. I lay awake, going through every conversation we'd had in the past year. Every time she'd seemed distracted on the phone. Every time she deflected a question about work with a joke and a subject change. Every time she'd been too generous. The television, my mother's dental work, the birthday gift that was slightly too expensive. And I'd thought, Laura is doing well. Laura is taking care of us. I wondered if it was the other way around. I waited until the second morning. I needed one day to think. David gave me the space to do that without asking me what I'd decided or what I was planning. He made coffee and took my parents to the farmer's market and left me alone in the house with my sister. She was on the back porch with her own coffee when I came out. She had her legs curled under her on the chair. She looked young. She looked like the 16-year-old who used to sit exactly like that and read paperback novels until my mother called us in for dinner. I sat across from her. I need to ask you something, I said. She looked up, and in the space between my sentence and whatever she expected me to say, I watched something cross her face. Not surprise. Recognition. Okay, she said carefully. Meridian Capital Group. She went very still. David mentioned it last night, I said. He wasn't trying to. I stopped. Tried again. He came across something. He wasn't looking for it. He would never, Sarah. Her voice was flat. Tell me it's not what I think it is. She looked at her coffee. She didn't speak for a long time. Long enough that I could hear a neighbor's lawnmower starting up somewhere down the street, and the wind in the oak tree at the back of the yard, and the distant sound of my father's laugh from wherever the farmer's market was. When she finally looked up, her eyes were wet. How much does he know? She asked. I told her. I told her exactly what David had told me, and I watched her face as I said it, and she didn't argue with any of it. She didn't perform outrage or confusion. She just listened. And when I was done, she set her mug down on the armrest and pressed her fingers to her mouth. It's not what you think, she said, but she said it so quietly and without conviction that it sounded less like a defense and more like a wish. Then tell me what it is. What she told me? took almost 2 hours. I'm going to try to tell it the way she told it to me, without the pauses and the backing up and the moments where she had to stop speaking entirely and look out at the yard until she could continue. 3 years ago, Laura made a mistake, not a small one. She was managing a portfolio for a long-time client, an elderly man named Gerald who had been with the firm for decades. He trusted her completely. In a quarter where she was under tremendous pressure to perform, she moved a portion of his funds into a position she believed in and did not document properly. The position failed. The loss was significant. And instead of reporting it immediately, which she should have done, which she knew she should have done, she covered it. She used another account to quietly fill the gap and told herself she'd unwind it once the market corrected. It didn't correct, and the hole got larger. I was going to fix it, she said. She was crying now, not dramatically, just steadily, the way you cry when you've been holding something for a long time. That's what I kept telling myself. Every month I was going to fix it. How long? I asked. 26 months. I didn't say anything. I know, she said. I know. I asked her if our parents' money was involved. She shook her head. She was emphatic about that. She had been meticulous about keeping their accounts separate. She would never, she said. I believed her. I don't fully know why, but I did. Laura, I said. You know what's coming. She nodded. The investigation is already open. I know. My attorney told me last week. That's actually... She stopped, laughed a little, bitterly. That's actually part of why I wanted to come home. I needed to see everyone before. She couldn't finish the sentence. Before what? She shook her head. I don't know. Before whatever happens next. I called David back in that afternoon. He and my parents had stopped for lunch somewhere, which gave us a little more time. I sat with my sister on the porch, and we talked in a way we hadn't talked since we were young, since before she left, and became the version of herself that none of us could quite keep up with. She told me that she had told her attorney everything, that she was cooperating, that the thing she was most afraid of wasn't the legal consequences, though she was very afraid of those, but the moment she would have to look at my mother and father and tell them what she had done, that she had been trusted, by them and by a client who had relied on her, and she had made a choice she couldn't take back, and then made 100 smaller choices to hide it, and every one of them had cost her something she couldn't name until now. I thought I could fix it before anyone got hurt, she said. Someone got hurt, I said. Gently, but I said it. She nodded. I know. Gerald's family has already been notified there's going to be restitution. My attorney is working on it. She looked at her hands. It doesn't feel like enough. It doesn't, I agreed, but it's somewhere to start. When David came home, I met him at the door. My parents were still coming in behind him, my mother carrying a canvas bag full of tomatoes, my father saying something about a man who'd been selling honey out of the back of his truck. The ordinary noise of an ordinary afternoon. I looked at my husband. He looked at me. She knows, I said quietly. She's cooperating. He nodded once. No judgment in his face, no satisfaction. Just the careful steadiness that I have always loved about him, the thing that sometimes frustrates me and more often makes me feel, in difficult moments, like the ground is still solid under my feet. Okay, he said, what does she need? We told my parents that evening. Laura asked to tell them herself. My mother sat very still while Laura spoke, and when it was over, she looked at my father, and my father looked at the table, and for a long moment, no one said anything. Then my father said, "Are you safe?" Laura blinked. What? Are you physically safe? Is anyone threatening you? No, Dad. It's not that kind of situation. He nodded slowly. Okay. A long pause. What do you need from us? My mother had been quiet through all of it. When she spoke, her voice was even. She said, "You should have called me. When it first happened, you should have called me the very next day." I know, Mom. I would have been angry, my mother said. I would have been very angry, but you should have called me. Laura put her face in her hands. My mother got up and crossed to where my sister was sitting and put both arms around her, the way she did when we were small and something had frightened us. The way that means, I am here, Whatever comes next, I am here. My father reached across the table and covered my hand with his. He didn't say anything. He didn't need to. David and I drove home 2 days later. The morning we left, he loaded the car while I sat with Laura in the kitchen one more time. She looked exhausted and lighter at the same time. Cleaner, somehow. Like something that had been compressed for a very long time had finally been allowed to take up its actual space. I don't know how to thank him, she said, for telling you. He didn't think he could not tell me. She nodded. I know. And honestly, she stopped. Honestly, I think I'm relieved it's out. I've been carrying it alone for so long. I didn't know how much it weighed until I put it down. There's still a lot ahead of you, I said. I know. I'll be there for it. Whatever I can do. She looked at me. You're not angry? I thought about that. I'm a lot of things. I think I'll probably feel more of them as this goes on. But right now, I paused. Right now, I just feel like I have my sister back. The real one. The one who used to sit on the porch and read paperbacks and didn't know how to pretend yet. She laughed a little. I forgot about those. I didn't. In the car, heading back down the highway, David had the radio on low. I watched the fields pass. Ohio in early autumn looks like something out of a memory. Golden, faded at the edges, too pretty to be entirely real. You did the right thing, I said. You did the hard thing, he said. That's different. I thought about Gerald, about an elderly man who had trusted a young woman with something he had spent his whole life building, about the way trust moves between people, how it travels, how it accumulates, how it can be spent all at once in a single decision made under pressure. I thought about how my sister had believed, month after month, that she could undo what she had done before anyone noticed, that she could fix it, that she could be the person who made it right without ever having to be the person who had made it wrong. That's not how it works. I don't think any of us gets to skip the part where we admit what we've done. Do you think she's going to be okay? I asked. David drove for a moment before he answered. I think she has a long road, he said. And I think she's finally walking in the right direction. I looked out the window. A crow lifted off a fence post and disappeared into the sky. That's enough, I said. For now, that's enough. I said, for now, that's enough.